Hello, and welcome to Staring at a Blank Page, a podcast about songwriting, sponsored by idofestivals.co.uk. I'm with Gareth Howells from Bemis and Times Effect, and solo stuff as well.
I do solo gigs as well. Yeah.
What's your earliest memory of hearing a song and being gripped by it?
I think, to be honest, I can go. It gets pretty early in my life where I discovered Simon and Garfunkel. It was in the house when I was a kid, and I was obviously struck by the harmonies, and similarly, my parents had Beach Boys as well, for similar reasons. But with Simon and Garfunkel, I know the Bridge Over Troubled Water and Sounds of Silence albums were played there, and I got my own copies, and I think I ended up getting them through being given them because I was only little. But I think that was kind of my first sort of discovery of great songs, if you like.
It was the harmonies, or
it was well. I think with Paul Simon's songs, it's a bit of everything, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean, he is genuinely a poet, isn't he? And he's got a beautiful voice, and obviously Art's voice was beautiful as well. So I think the overall effect, kind of opens your eyes up a bit. And obviously I was an 80s kid, so sort of late 70s and 80s. So you kind of, the chart music isn't necessarily sweet and beautiful. So I think I was kind of taken by that a bit. So I do remember definitely singing along to that stuff and really taking it in.
And how long before you then thought, well, I could give this a go?
Well, I didn't start writing songs until I was about 17, because I was writing poetry a lot. And when I came to college, I was sort of contributing poetry to the college magazine, and then a friend of mine said, "You should have my guitar and learn to play," because I was singing a lot as well at the time anyway.
So at that point you couldn't play.
I couldn't play the guitar
right.
when I was 17, and then I basically learnt to play the guitar to write songs. So literally, I defined myself as a songwriter first and a guitarist second, because I learnt the guitar to write songs. I've always sung, all my life I've sung. So it's not it wasn't necessarily a new thing for me to sing, but it was definitely a new thing for me to sing things I'd written.
How long before you had the confidence to sort of say, right, I've written these songs and play them?
Well, I think because music was such a big part of my life as a singer before that, it didn't take very long at all for me to really get used to that and really enjoy that. So I was like, I got really obsessed with it, and I was recording like little albums while I was at college, when I should have been doing other work and all that sort of stuff. And I wrote tons and tons of songs quite quickly. Pretty much all of them I wouldn't play now, but I wrote so many. So it really did, because I got so obsessed with it, it did get me used to thinking of melodies and trying different things. And I did whittle out a lot of things that I thought were important that weren't important. Like I'd try and be clever with the chord changes, or I'd try and I remember, just me and acoustic guitar trying to think, I should maybe change the rhythm a bit, or change the time signature in the middle of the song. I mean, why? But clearly I was listening to prog at the time or something. It's not necessary. So you do rule out those things. Once you've written a few songs, you can pinpoint moments where you were clearly you had an idea, you thought that was important, and it wasn't at all. You end up realising that the simplest songs, musically, the simplest songs are often the most effective.
Have any of those songs from those early days still survived in the Bemis set? Do they still crop up?
No. No way.
You've edited them out.
Yeah. I mean, the first duo I had when I used to play in the folk clubs when I was younger, I was still a teenager. Some of those my family asked for sometimes for me to play, and I would play a couple of those. But again, I still think that I've got so much better as a writer that it seems weird playing them,
Yeah.
I love the fact that the family liked them, but I think it was, those years were better for my sort of performance skills developing rather than my writing, Although you have to go through those times,
Yeah.
I think the earliest song that I would play now, probably sort of mid-90s, I think, I guess. Those songs I'd still play now, because I think Brilliant Fire was written in 1995-ish, and Machismo was, and I still play those.
So the easy question, I think, is then, how do you write a song?
How do you write a song? I think what I've discovered, and this is not true for everyone, because I think some people can do it, but I've discovered for me personally, I can't force myself to do it. If I'm trying to write a commercial song, trying to write a song that I think everyone's going to like, it just doesn't happen. It's awful. Yeah. So quite quickly I end up rejecting it and just thinking, what is it I'm trying to do here? And then you end up writing something that actually doesn't sound very commercial, but is something that you prefer yourself.
Yeah.
So that's happened a lot. So, well, I say that's a lot. At some point you realise that's just not where you are, so you stop doing it. But for a while that was what I was doing. So I think you've got to feel it. You've got to have a reason why you've either started writing words, or why you picked up the guitar, or why you started singing. And if that reason's there and it's valid and you're really feeling it, it'll just flow quite quickly, And sometimes an idea can get you excited. So just the adrenaline that comes from an idea that you like, that can spark lots of other ideas just because you feel like you're in a moment you want to capture.
So is there any set way that it works, that you always start with the lyrics, or if you always start with something on the guitar, or could it just come?
I think for me, actually, most of the time it started with lyrics. But then, well, it's funny actually. Me and Richie were laughing yesterday, the day before, something about how, because we wrote a few songs together.
And just for the listener, Richie.
Richie was the guy that I formed Bemis with back in 2006, and part of the character of Bemis was some of the songs that we wrote together. So I wrote the bulk of the songs, and he wrote a couple of songs on his own. But there was a big batch of songs that we wrote together as well. But those times were quite funny because we'd be rehearsing, and then he'd have this little guitar thing, and I'd go, oh, what, we could do this with that, and then he'd go, yeah, hold on, I'll just make a cup of tea, and then he'd go off and put the kettle on, and he'd come back and go, I've just written a set of lyrics. And he'd go, what? And it's that idea that, if the feeling is right, and also you get into a system in a way, if you know some things work, you don't beat yourself up over not having 6 verses, or or sometimes one of the things I like doing is rephrasing a repeated line. So sometimes that can kind of write itself a little bit for some songs. I know one of those songs we wrote that quickly actually has only got 2 verses, but it just felt wrong to write more, because you wanted that sort of immediate impact. So those kind of moments are quite cool when it just happens.
Well, it was the arrival of the 7-inch single one that kind of dictated the 3.5 minute pop song. That was the most you could get on. So everyone seems to think, it's got to be 3.5 minutes. But good songs aren't always 3.5 minutes. Some of the greatest songs in history have been less than 2 minutes long.
Yeah. Sometimes 2 minutes is enough. You might have said what you needed to say. Or I wrote one that was about a minute long, about my dad's funeral, and I'll never perform it, and I don't actually know where it's gone, but I did record it, and it was a bit of therapy, I guess, but it's only a minute long. I just didn't want to say anything except what I said in that minute. So I think sometimes you're right, that if it's a little idea you've got, you can labour the point a bit, can't you? But then having said that, I'd say my most popular song is probably the Jigsaw song, which is 6.5 minutes long, so... there's no right answer, is there?
That's the prog fan again.
yeah. But it's weird though, because it's not. I suppose it's the bridge that makes it longer. There's 2 bridges, and I suppose that's what adds the time to it.
So you mentioned there that you used to write with Richie. Richie's back in the band.
He's
so
back
are you back
occasionally,
writing with him again?
We've talked about it. So he's at a place now where he can do more of those kind of things, which is really cool. He's been looking at the songs that I've been writing since he left as well. So he's been doing that.
How long was he out for?
3 years.
Right. Okay. And were all of the songwriting duties down to you then in business?
Yeah. Well, we kind of There's a couple of examples where that other members of the band wrote with me. If something came up in a rehearsal, I would go with it. But yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
But
how do you feel about because you've kind of you've had that responsibility, is there any sort of reluctance to sort of to give any of that up, or
no, not at all.
Because
no.
you've got a good history with Richie anyway.
Yeah,
it's probably going to work anyway.
Yeah, and I think I think I'm quite protective over lyrics because of this sort of poetry background when I was a kid, but I think also because it takes a while to get used to writing lyrics, and some people who get really into the idea of writing sometimes, might need more developing in lyrics possibly. But I think that when you write with someone else, it creates a new element to your writing that you wouldn't necessarily find yourself. So I think it's quite exciting actually.
Does it affect the way, because do you imagine that you and Richie are going to harmonise on it in some way, and does that affect what you write or how you write it, or the melody that you write, because you're thinking about how it's going to be performed?
Well, I always think there'll be harmonies on anything I write.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, Richie's a brilliant harmoniser, but I always like to try and surround myself with people who can sing harmonies. So when you're writing, you're always imagining how's this going to sound. Yeah, to a degree. I think a song should work without harmonies as well. If a song, I mean, it's interesting actually, because one of the songs that I've always liked and been proud of is a song called "Waiting for Daylight," and I used to always put that down to the harmonies in the chorus. That I was particularly proud of the harmonies. But then I realised it's just a song. I feel really proud that I wrote this song about this issue that I've been trying to write about for a long time. And it's easy to think it's the sound of the song rather than actually it works without those harmonies, you know. So we've actually started playing that song in the band again, even though for most of our gigs there's only 2 vocals rather than 3. But on the album version there's 3 vocals in the chorus. I always thought that was what was good about it.
You may have heard a phrase that goes along the lines of "talent borrows, genius steals." What do you think you have stolen? There's lots of. Well, it's funny you say that, because I always think I'd steal from some of the my heroes like Loudon Wainwright III and people like Lyle Lovett and Bruce Cockburn, and sometimes even people like Billy Bragg, even though I can't actually cover any of his songs, I end up accidentally doing an impression of him when I sing. But lots of different people that I've listened to and admired. I can hear their writing in the songs, but now I'll say to my wife, God, that sounds like blah, 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 doesn't it? And then she'll go, no, I can't hear that at all. So I think sometimes you can think you're channeling that and you're not, or you've got into a kind of a you've got your own sound, so it's there, but it's not completely seeped in it. Do you know what I mean? But you know it's there.
I've
whether that necessarily comes out.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's been just a few times where I've thought, wow, I think I'm really doing that at the moment. You know, that guy. I'm kind of. I think definitely.
Have you ever heard something in a song and thought, I'm going to try that next time? I mean, there's nothing wrong with it.
It's funny because there was a song that I wrote which has now got completely different music to it because of this, but I realised it was exactly the same as Free Falling by Tom Petty, and that was an accident, and I was like playing, I thought, oh right, this is cool, and then after a while I thought, oh no, actually I can't use that because it's basically Free Falling. That does happen. That's happened.
And you can't afford the legal case.
Exactly. Yeah, try and write something else.
Do you have any recurring themes, do you think? If you look back over all the songs you've written, is there one sort of theme that seems to keep popping up?
Yeah, definitely. Self-confidence. So I'm either trying to build myself up, or I'm trying to tell someone to build themselves up a bit and not feel so outside it all, or...
But are you indirectly singing to yourself then?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Therapy.
And I think, sometimes I've done it in a first-person-y way. But the times I haven't, it's usually still me talking to myself a bit.
But that's a good technique, isn't it? To kind of step outside yourself. It's kind of a good way of almost distancing yourself, isn't it?
Yeah. There's a song called "Kick the Satellite," which we play in most of our gigs because it's quite bouncy, and we can get away with doing that in cover gigs as well. And that was written when we had particularly bad financial difficulties, and it's just saying keep going, things will get better. And and I was very clearly singing to myself, you know.
But were you aware of that at the time?
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was definitely. Yeah. I was trying to keep myself positive, you know.
And have you ever come close to knocking it on the head?
Loads of times.
When you've written or you've had a bad gig, or you've written a song and you think, oh God, I'm losing it.
Yeah, loads of times. There's luckily I don't seem to have had it for a while, but I know in the late 90s I had a horrific. I say horrific. Sounds like first world problems, but for me it was horrific. Writer's block. I was really, I was really ratty and short fuse, all that. You know, it definitely needed. I need to be able to write or be able to sing or something like that. And that all went out the window, and I felt like I couldn't do anything, and it was all going wrong. And I think it's quite cool that doesn't seem to have. That seemed to be like this sort of one-off period. It was probably a good year or so.
So what was it that dragged you out of that slump?
I'm not really sure because I kind of came out of it slowly. Oh, I do know what part of it was. That I ended up starting this instrumental trio with two friends, so that kind of distracted me from writing songs. And then after I'd done that for a little while, I got back in touch with Richie because we'd been friends for years anyway, and then we started talking about doing Bemis. So I think, and then that gave me a new incentive anyway, and like just songs came out of me like mad. So I think it does help to have a purpose behind it. So if you're not playing the songs, that can easily sort of drive you to not do it anymore. But also there's a period where you start thinking everything you write sounds the same. You know, you've got to get over that bit really, because unless you are writing songs that all sound the same, you know, you can always tell yourself that as well.
But that goes back to the point we were making earlier about how you can hear the influences in the song, because you know they're there. Whereas other people might say, well, no, I can't hear that. And so the repetition thing, you might think, well, that's almost the same chords, but the listener might think.
But also the way to give yourself that sort of extra versatility is to let yourself be influenced by those things. So, you know, sometimes I've heard some songwriters do something that I've never done before, and I think, well, what would that sound like if I did that? You know, and it always sounds a bit different because it's your own voice. Yeah. And
you don't want to get caught, do you?
Yeah. Well, unless you're doing free falling, then it doesn't sound different at all. But yeah. And if you can allow that a bit, you know, then I think you can sometimes expand your chord vocabulary or the way you treat melodies or your subject matter as well. I mean, you know, sometimes some people can be a little bit repetitive in what they write about as well. You know, although I do write a lot of political songs, so I don't think I'm going to ever run out of stuff to write about.
Some artists only ever write love songs, don't they? So
yeah.
And no one ever says, "Oh, you always write about love." Do
no.
They? So it's
that's right.
As long as the songs are interesting and you're putting a slightly different slant on it, then there's nothing wrong with that. Is there?
And there are some incredible songs about love. Obviously, I think I always strive to try and write something about love that I haven't written before, which I find quite difficult. So I do write love songs. I think it's easier to write heartbreak songs and songs about love going wrong than love going right. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? And I've been married for 25 years, so it's more. Well, we've been together for 25 years, and we've been married for 23 years. But anyway, it's more difficult to write consistently about how good it is. I think it's pain is a good motivator for writing. I think. You know, so.
And no one wants to hear how great you are.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, all right, mate.
Don't keep going on about it.
Yeah.
What's your favourite song by another artist? I'm gonna get onto what's your favourite song by you in a minute. But
favourite song by another artist.
I mean, from a songwriting point of view, so you might have your favourite dance track that makes you. And I think I've seen you dance. You're a great mover, so I'm sure you've probably got a track that will get you up dancing. But from a songwriting point of view, what do you think is pretty much? I'm pretty sure you probably couldn't narrow it down to one.
Well, it's a big
probably be a long list.
Question. Even because that means also bring it down to one songwriter.
It's a bit of a desert island disc question.
It's a little bit, yeah.
I mean, even they
you gave me
get
10,
eight.
and
Even they get 8, didn't they?
Yeah.
So who's your favourite artist then? Would you say if you had to narrow that down to?
I could list about 5 songwriters. I can do that, I guess. So Loudon Wainwright is up there. Bruce Cockburn is. To be fair, John Mellencamp's had a big influence on me, and Paul Simon has. I mean, Sounds of Silence is an incredible song. I'm gonna be so angry if I've left someone out.
So they won't be listening to this.
No, they won't be. No, you're right. I mean, Annie DeFranco is someone I look up to a lot. I think she's incredible, and she's opened my eyes out a lot about what you could do with the guitar songwriting form. And people like Stephen Stills. Now, well, the thing is, though, some people are like, they have these moments where they really have an impact on you, but it's kind of patchy. Whereas to some people, I mean, I think like Bruce Cockburn and Loudon Wainwright has had a career of just doing incredible things, writing wise. They've had a different level of fame, but I think, you know, to have that kind of body of work is quite amazing. And like Randy Newman, I look up to him a lot, but he's interesting as far as if you ever wanted to try and get influenced by that. It's a very ambitious thing, even to be influenced by him. Yeah. He's so clever, and and this idea of having characters in your songs, it's quite a brave thing to do. You know, his comment on racism being short people, which it sounds like he's just being offensive. You know, really clever, but he's able to not worry about whether or not someone misinterprets the song, and I'm not really happy with that, so I couldn't do that. But I've got absolute admiration for him for doing that, and obviously his you know, things like I Think It's Going to Rain Today. It's not about that, but it's a beautiful song. So, yeah.
But I'll ask you the easy question. Which one of your own are you most proud of? From a sort of technical songwriting point of view. I think
there are a few. I mean, I know my most personal song, I've said before, is the Jigsaw song. But I think the song I'm most proud of as a songwriter, and how it seems to have really hit a nerve with people, is a song called Same, which is about being autistic. So I'd heard about this project that was happening called Musicians for Autism, and they were making this CD that they wanted to raise money and awareness about autism. So I wrote to them, I said, I'd like to contribute, and they wrote back, said, yes please, that'd be great. So I wrote a song specifically for it, and I wanted to do it from the first person point of view, and I think often that's more real, you know. I mean, there's people like Springsteen that can write really good narrative songs. I think I seem to have a better knack for doing first person songs, you know, whatever context that is. So I did that, and I did some research, and I know, and my sister-in-law is autistic. She's also got Down syndrome, so there's quite a lot going on with my sister-in-law, and I was influenced by that, and I was kind of doing it a little bit for her. Yeah, I think I seem to have really hit a nerve with it, so I'm really proud of it.
Is that the song you're going to play?
Yeah. get to know me, and we could be good friends.
Lovely. Thank you very much for that. It's a lovely song.
Thank you.
Which song do your fans ask for?
There's a few, I guess. Some people ask for a Jigsaw song. A lot of people ask for that. Some people ask for People Live On. Again, another personal one, I guess. Some people ask for Brilliant Fire, which is what I wrote for Ali. I think those three, and Not Enough to Know sometimes, which I wrote with Richie. We did write one together actually called The Lines as well. It gets asked for a lot, and we don't play that very often because it's so intense. But we've started doing it in pub gigs recently because we just think, oh well, why not? And that does go down really well. So The Lines is a really popular one as well, and that starts off really quiet and it gets very, very loud.
So, based on your experience of songwriting over the years, what's the best bit of advice you could give to someone about the process? I think don't be fake. Write what you think suits what you're trying to do, and if you want to make a living out of it, I do think it's worth trying to get a publisher and working and trying to see if you can work with, getting songs out there played by other people and that kind of thing, but just keep writing and keep performing. I think if you want to be a professional songwriter who's not necessarily getting their money from performing, you still need to perform, just to keep networking and spreading the word and all that. Thank you once again for your time. I've got no further questions, but this is an opportunity for you to plug anything that you've got, any product you want to push. Well, I mean, I always want people to come and see Bemis. We're always better live than we are anywhere else. So if you've seen us on YouTube and that have been curious, please come and see us live. The band is in the best state it's ever been. My son Louis is now doing amazing harmonies, and we obviously, like I said before, we've got Richie for some of the gigs again as well. So we've got three parts, really nice, and we've got the musicians the rest of the musicians in the band are amazing. So I absolutely love Bemis at the moment. So all the Bemis stuff, there's albums on Spotify. Yeah. And is there a Bemis website? Yeah, www.bemismusic.co.uk and Facebook page. Have you still got any of those USB? Yeah. You can all 6 albums on the USB stick. And how much? That's a bargain price of £10. £10, so you can get those through the website, listener. You've also got a series of gigs coming up based on protest songs. Do you want to just? That's me and my friend William Harper from Hobo Jones. We've known each other for years, and we've been on the festival scene for years. And he came up with the idea of doing a show, a history of protest songs. But his kind of one of his ideas was to really drive home the fact that it's still around, but often unsigned people on things like the festival scene, singing about what's happening around the world, and I really like the idea, and we wanted to do it together. And for me, I wanted to showcase some of the things that have been more famous. So we're kind of going from 2 different angles. So it's quite nice because I want to do sort of stuff like Tracy Chapman and Crosby, Stills and Nash and stuff like that. And William Harper's angle is more the unsigned thing. So both together, I think it'd be a really interesting show. Okay, don't say too much because I'm hoping that at your next show that we can record a little special of this. Oh, that's great. Ashcroft Arts Centre in Fareham. Is it the 16th? 16th February, yeah. 16th of February. Any others booked at the the Bemis are playing all the time. I'm just thinking. Any of the protest songs? The protest songs. There are talks. So there's a couple of festivals that want us to do a spot, and nothing concrete yet. So we're just still working that out. But we're hoping to do as many as we can, really. Are the tickets still left for the 16th of February? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'll be there, obviously, to do the podcast, but I've paid for a ticket as well. That's all from me. Thank you very much again for your time. Thank you. Good luck with the shows coming up, and hopefully I'll see you on the 16th for a special day. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening. We could be good friends. Yeah, get to know me,
and we could be good friends.
The rights to this podcast are owned by me. Please ask if you wish to use any or part of it. Except the music, the rights to that are owned by the artist. Please ask them if you wish to use any part of that. Thank you.